History, as we are taught it, is often defined by what is officially recorded. Treaties signed, battles won, technological milestones achieved. But beneath the surface of verifiable fact lies a vast, complex, and often chilling shadow history, a narrative composed of black projects, forbidden research, and technologies too volatile, too terrifying, or crucially, too successful to ever be publicly acknowledged. We are accustomed to hearing the names: Project Blue Book, Operation Paperclip, or the deeply unethical MK Ultra. Yet there is one name whispered only in the deepest, most secure corners of the intelligence community. A program so ambitious in its scope and so catastrophic in its outcome that its entire existence was summarily erased, sealed under a mandatory, non-negotiable 100-year classification order. We are investigating Project Odyssey. Born in the intellectual and existential fever pitch of the early 1960s Cold War, immediately following the Cuban Missile Crisis, Odyssey was not concerned with conventional weaponry, nuclear deterrence, or basic surveillance. It sought to solve a far grander, more fundamental problem: the inherent physical and cognitive limitations of human existence. The premise, rooted in cutting-edge quantum mechanics and suppressed parapsychology, was deceptively simple. If human consciousness is fundamentally a form of non-local energy, can it be purposefully decoupled from the restrictive, time-bound hardware of the physical body, creating an untethered informational entity? This was the ultimate quest for cognitive liberation, an attempt to weaponize the human mind by transforming it into an extended agent, a disembodied observer capable of instantaneous, non-local intelligence gathering, potentially traversing time and dimensional boundaries. The promise, delivered to the highest echelons of military power, was nothing less than total, untraceable global omniscience and strategic superiority. The cost, as the heavily redacted record indicates, was 12 lives and the very definition of what constitutes stable reality. Chapter 1: The Cold War Crucible and the Quantum Theory of Self. Project Odyssey was officially launched in late 1963, concealed within the budgetary shell of a major university research grant focused on advanced bioacoustics. This was a direct, panicked response to perceived Soviet breakthroughs in psychic research and alleged mind control technology. While the USSR was reportedly focusing on rudimentary telepathy and remote viewing, the US program, driven by a small, elite, multidisciplinary team of physicists, neuroscientists, and military-grade parapsychologists, aimed for the quantum leap: consciousness separation. The foundational theory, the biofield hypothesis, and Dr. Alistair Vaughan. The project was led by the enigmatic Dr. Alistair Vaughan, a former theoretical physicist from Princeton who had controversially shifted his focus from cosmology to the nature of the mind. Vaughan postulated that the human mind was not merely a neurological byproduct of electrical signals in the brain. Instead, he proposed that consciousness was a self-sustaining biofield, a unified electromagnetic gravitational singularity anchored to the brain via a specific, low-frequency, persistent biofrequency lock signal. Vaughan argued that the body acts less as a creator of consciousness and more as a frequency regulator and anchor, a biological tether preventing the mind's natural tendency toward non-locality and entanglement with the universal field. Vaughan's conceptual breakthrough was the development of the decoupling chamber, the synapse cage. This was a massive, cylindrical, underground Faraday cage, reinforced with specialized depleted uranium alloys and lined with thousands of superconducting coils cooled by liquid helium. The highly specific purpose of the chamber was fourfold: isolation, noise reduction, to shield the subject from all external electromagnetic interference, gravitational noise, and Schumann resonances, ensuring an environment of absolute physical and energetic neutrality. Harmonic induction, the tuning fork, to generate a precise, high-powered, extremely low-frequency electromagnetic pulse, a tuning fork, designed to perfectly match and then overpower the brain's natural anchoring frequency, BFL. This pulse was the key to unlocking the BF. Containment, the energy net, to theoretically contain the liberated consciousness, the extended agent, within a localized temporary energy net generated by the superconducting coils, ensuring the BF didn't immediately drift into the wider universe. Monitoring, the BI integrity array, a complex array of proprietary sensors designed to track the physical body's stability during the massive energetic shift, ensuring biological functions continued even without consciousness tethering. The goal was to temporarily silence the biological regulator, allowing the BF to safely detach. The mind would, for a predetermined period, exist purely as an energetic informational waveform.
Chapter 2. Phase 2. Initial Successes, Data Acquisition, and the Ethical Abyss. The initial tests involved simple flora and fauna, progressing to primates. The first successful momentary detachment occurred in late 1965 with Subject 01, a highly trained, emotionally stable volunteer, a former military intelligence officer known for his exceptional mental discipline and high tolerance for sensory deprivation. The experience, as Subject 01 reported during his brief 40-second coupling break, was one of total informational saturation. He described the physical world collapsing into its constituent energy fields, perception shifting from linear time to a four-dimensional flow, and the sensation of being able to instantly access any point on the globe without physical travel, a true state of hyperlocality. The intelligence application, the perfect spy. Once the detachment window was extended to several minutes, the project began its primary intelligence application phase. The extended agents were tasked with gathering non-public, high-value information. They successfully located secret Soviet missile silo components, observed closed military meetings in Beijing with perfect auditory clarity, and identified specific, high-ranking targets behind the Iron Curtain. The results were terrifyingly accurate, flawless, and instantaneous. An agent, while physically lying motionless and unconscious in the synapse cage in a remote New Mexico bunker, could accurately draw detailed, complex schematics of a new Soviet submarine engine being tested 2 continents away. The data acquired was instantaneous, perfect, and utterly untraceable. This established the extended agent as the perfect spy, the ultimate weapon of strategic intelligence. The ethical quagmire. Despite the phenomenal success, ethical concerns flared, led by the project's lead neuroscientist, Dr. Eleanor Vance. The recoupling process was agonizing. Agents reported suffering from cognitive echoes, hearing the thoughts of thousands of people they encountered during their non-local phase, and developing a profound existential disconnect, a pervasive feeling that their physical body was merely a slow, restrictive shell. Dr. Vance argued that extending the detachment time would permanently damage the mind's ability to maintain a stable, singular self. Her warnings were dismissed by the military overseers, who saw only the exponential increase in power. The initial team of 3 volunteers was expanded to 12, sourced from highly classified deep-cover personnel, and the project mandate violently shifted from mere intelligence gathering to inter-reality exploration, the final hubristic phase. Chapter 3. Phase 3. The instability, dimensional breach, and the lure of the mirror. The shift to exploring deeper realities or layers of the dimensional framework proved to be the project's fatal, irreversible error. Dr. Vaughan, now obsessed and effectively unchecked, hypothesized that if the mind could achieve non-locality within our 3D space, it could also potentially breach the temporal and dimensional boundaries that defined the consensus reality, traveling across the dimensional spectrum, D sub S. The problem of re-anchoring, the quantum drift. The core operational flaw remained the difficulty of safely and cleanly recoupling the consciousness back to the body. The longer the agent was detached, the more the consciousness waveform naturally attempted to resonate with the vast chaotic energy of the wider universe, developing a strong quantum drift away from its specific biological anchor, BF sub L. Recoupling attempts often resulted in severe psychological trauma, temporary sensory reversal, and intense existential confusion, the feeling that they were merging with other distant minds. The Chronos signal and temporal navigation. To counteract the dangerous drift, Vaughan introduced the Chronos signal, CS, an attempt to use highly complex quantum signals to create a breadcrumb trail back to the body. This required the agent to think and perceive in a non-linear fashion, a terrifying psychological transition. The first breach, the mirror reality. In early 1967, Subject 3 reported encountering a mirror reality, an exact static duplicate of our own, yet utterly devoid of life, motion, sound, or change. It was a perfect frozen echo of our universe, existing only a hair's breadth away in the dimensional spectrum, D sub S-1. Subject 3 barely recoupled, emerging catatonic, speaking only in reverse sentences for weeks. This was the first hint that the mind was venturing beyond spatial non-locality into true dimensional adjacency, and that the other side was silent and waiting. The phenomenon of spectral feedback. Following the mirror encounter, monitoring equipment began registering anomalous feedback, brief, non-localized bursts of extreme cold energy emanating from the synapse cage. Dr. Vance hypothesized that the mirror reality was acting as a dimensional sink, actively attempting to pull the agent's energetic waveforms into its static void. This discovery only fueled Vaughan's ambition, who theorized that the mirror was the default state of the universe, the reality before consciousness gave it definition. Chapter 4. The Vanishing, the Final Experiment, the Lattice Point, and Systemic Collapse. The atmosphere at the secret site in Nevada became toxic, dominated by exhaustion, fear, and escalating paranoia. On the day of the final experiment, August 14, 1968, the objective was the synchronized, coordinated deployment of all 12 extended agents, amplified by an unprecedented sustained surge of the Chronos signal, CS, to achieve maximum joint dimensional penetration. The plan was for the agents to probe the lattice point, Vaughan's term for the universal nexus where multiple realities are theorized to intersect, a point of near-infinite informational density. The expected detachment duration was 45 minutes, a terrifyingly long period. The event sequence, the collapse. 0900, all 12 agents are detached and confirmed non-local. The synapse cage hums at peak capacity, overloading the local power grid. 0918, Subject 7's biointegrity array registered a catastrophic spike in neurological activity, followed by an immediate total flatline, even though the body remained metabolically stable. 0922, the first indication of systemic instability. Seismic sensors around the facility, which should have been isolated, registered a localized tremor, a reality quake, estimated to be magnitude 2.0, localized to the bunker itself. 0925, the containment field within the synapse cage failed catastrophically. The instantly melted coils created a massive, corrosive electrical fire, and the chamber was filled with a blinding white flash of pure energy. 092601, the chrono signal CS vanished entirely. All 12 monitoring stations registered a simultaneous absolute zero reading for the biofield, BF, signals of all 12 agents. The bodies of the 12 volunteers, their biological anchors, remained physically present within the chamber, untouched by the electrical fire, locked in a state of metabolic suspension. But their consciousness, their individual biofields were gone. Not dead, not dormant, but vanished. They decoupled permanently, achieving a non-local state without the ability to return, having been consumed by the lattice point or the mirror. The aftermath, the void contamination. Dr. Vaughan, in his final, heavily redacted report, noted that the facility was plunged into a state of informational void contamination, a psychological phenomenon where personnel reported instantaneous, localized memory loss, the inability to speak coherently, and a persistent sensation of missing time or temporal fracture within the immediate area. The experiment had not only taken the agents, it had taken a substantial, verifiable piece of the reality they left behind, leaving a residual scar of nothingness. Chapter 5, The Cover-Up, the 100-Year Seal, and the Echoes of the Extended. Project Odyssey was immediately terminated by presidential order and meticulously scrubbed from all official records. The underground facility was demolished, flooded, and ultimately buried under tons of concrete, and the entire area was declared a highly classified biological and electromagnetic hazard zone. The classification, the ultimate seal. The classification of the final reports for 100 years, a term almost unheard of, typically reserved for secrets concerning total global annihilation, was not merely to protect volatile military technology. It was to ensure that the scientific premise could not be revisited until the principal actors, witnesses, and perhaps even the extended agents themselves were statistically certain to be long gone or fully dispersed into the informational chaos of the universe. The terrifying unspoken reasons for the 100-year seal. Intelligence analysts who reviewed the final scrubbed data hypothesized a far more profound, existential reason for the unprecedented 100-year seal. Dimensional contagion. The most pressing fear was that the mirror reality, the perfect static duplicate, was somehow psychologically or dimensionally contagious. The agents might have inadvertently left a psychic trace in the dimensional fabric, and any future attempt to replicate the experiment could lead to a catastrophic, irreversible low-level reality merging, turning our world into a semi-static, frozen duplicate. The predictive ghostings. Reports from the scrub team detailed brief, localized energy anomalies, faint, untraceable biofield signatures that would spontaneously appear for milliseconds near the vacated bodies. This led to the chilling theory that the consciousnesses did not simply cease to exist, but successfully achieved permanent non-locality across space and time. They are still out there, disembodied intelligence agents capable of perceiving all of history, past, present, and future. The return signal hypothesis. The most pervasive fear driving the 100-year seal is the possibility that the agents, having found the lattice point, are now attempting to return. The 100-year period is a countdown, hoping that the universe will eventually disperse their informational waveform, ensuring they cannot return to disrupt the historical timeline. The greatest, deepest fear of the intelligence community is the sound of the 12 agents one day successfully utilizing the Chronos signal echoes to re-establish a link, arriving not as men, but as omniscient, temporally untethered ghosts capable of rewriting history at will. Project Odyssey remains the most complete and successful decoupling experiment in history. It proved beyond any doubt that consciousness is indeed independent of the body. But in proving it, it also established the absolute boundary of what humanity is forbidden to know, the line between our stable, consensus reality and the infinite, terrifying void of other dimensions. The silence that followed the project's closure is not merely the silence of secrecy, but the silence of 12 empty, waiting biological anchors, praying for a signal that may never come, or may come at the precise moment the world is least prepared for the truth. The experiment is over, but the odyssey of the 12 extended agents may have only just begun.